Hello everyone. Today we are going to discuss about manufacturing of tablets. So as we know that tablets are solid unit dosage forms which are prepared by compressing drugs alone or mixture of drugs with or without excipients. And coming to the manufacturing, there are certain steps that are followed for manufacturing a tablet, which includes pulverization and mixing, granulation, compression, and if required, coating. So these are the main 4 steps that are followed for manufacturing tablets. Coming to the first step, that is pulverization and mixing. In this step, the different solid or powder ingredients are size reduced. That means in order to avoid segregation while mixing, the first step followed is pulverization. That means size reduction. So in order to size reduce the particles, different types of equipments are used in the industries, which includes cutter mill, hammer mill, roller mill, etc. And after the size reduction, the next step is granulation. So granulation means it is the size enlargement process in which the primary powder particles are adhered together to form multi-particle entities called as granules. So and or you can say that it is a process of collecting the fine particles together by creating a bond between them. So in order to create a bond, these bonds can be formed either by 2 methods. That means by using a binding agent. This type of granulation is also called as wet granulation, or by slugging. Slugging is also called as dry granulation. Here we are not using the binding agent in order to adhere the fine particles. So granulation means nothing. It is the size enlargement. That means small powder particles or the fine powder particles are made to adhere or stick to each other to form some more large entities for about 0.2 to 0.5 millimeter size range, and those are called as granules. And this process is initiated either by 2 methods, by dry granulation or wet granulation. Okay, so the what are the needs for granulation? So there are certain advantages for granulation technology. First of all, it will enhance the flow property. Secondly, as the flow property of the powders increased, we can avoid the weight variation between the tablets, and it also produces a uniform mixture, and also avoid the content uniformity. It will improve the compaction, and it will produce a dust-free environment, and also the powder segregation also can be prevented. So these are the some of the advantages for granulation. Then coming to the different types of techniques. If you are looking this into this chart, it can be understand that there are 3 main techniques for manufacturing tablets, either by compression or by granulation. Okay, so this granulation is again divided into 2 types: dry granulation and wet granulation. So coming to the first technique, that is wet granulation. And this wet granulation, as we said earlier, there are main 4 steps, that is mixing, granulation, screening, and compression. In dry granulation also, mixing, communion or compression, screening, and final compression. And in direct compression, all the ingredients are mixed together, then it is directly introduced into the tablet compression machine to eject out the tablets. So coming to the first techniques, wet granulation. Here at the first step, the drugs and diluents are mixed together, and in order to convert these fine particles into granules, we are introducing binder agents. So these binder agents will wet the powder mass to form a coherent mass, which is screened through the different sieves, which is dried. Then the other excipients are added, and it is introduced into the compression machine where the tablets are punched off. And in dry granulation, the first step is same. That means we are mixing the drug diluent along with some lubricants, and it is introduced into a heavy tablet punching machine. And here we are forming a poorly formed tablet. And this poorly formed tablet which are formed, it is passed to different types of sieves in order to reduce the size so that granules are formed. And these granules again added with certain glidants and lubricants passed to the compression machine in order to form the tablet. And in industries, this dry granulation is carried out through a specialized equipment called as Chilcerator roller compactor. Okay, then in direct compression, as we said, the powders, there is no granulation methods. The powders are simply mixed together and it is directly introduced into the compression machine. So coming to the wet granulation, so as we said that there are mainly 4 steps for granulation. Okay, so first of all, we are spraying the powders with the binders. So these binder droplets start to moisten the, or these binders will form a bridge or a bond between each of the powder particles. Alright, you can see that a liquid bridge is formed. This step is known as moistening. And the next step, this bridge that form gets solidified. Okay, so this liquid bridge will converted into a solid bridge, and finally this will allow the aggregation of these small particles together to form a snowball structure. So it forms a granule. So this is the main steps that is taking place in the granulation technique. Okay, so spraying with the binding agent, the binding agent will form a liquid bridge that is known as the moistening step. Then after that it gets solidified and finally forms the finished segregate. Okay. Then coming to the factors affecting wet granulation. So while we are doing the wet granulation technique, certain factors are the which can affect the granulation. First of all, amount of binders. So if we are adding the binders, if we are not adding the binders in an optimum amount, it may result in certain problems. That means if the amount of binding agent that we are added is more, it may result in harder granules. If the harder granules are formed, the tablet formed also will be much harder, which can affect the dissolution and disintegration time. And finally, affect the bioavailability. And if the binders which are added was not that much in concentration, or if it is added is very less, what happens? It may result in fragile granules. So if the granules are become fragile means it may result in friability and capping. So this capping and friability is the two processing problems we usually face while manufacturing tablets. Friability means the tablets, the sides of the tablets are chipped off, and capping means it is the separation of the tablets into different layers. So the use of optimum amount of binders are very essential. Next, the second first factor is amount of solvents. So while using or while wetting the agents, wetting the powders, if we are using higher quality of solvents, it may causes overwetting. So overwetting, we already said that if the amount of binders or the amount of solvents that we use in order to wet the powder particle is more, it may causes harder grains. And if the solvent is less, it may leads to underwetting and results in fragile granules. But the fragile granules may lead to the increasing the amount of fines. The fines are more, it may affect the flow property of the granules and finally affect the hardness, and it may produce weight variation problems, etc. Then next is mixing time. Increased mixing time after the addition of solvents again results in harder granules. So after adding the binding agent, if the time of mixing is also increased, means it may leads to harder granules. Next is drying time. Over drying will result in capping. So if the granules, actually after the granules are formed, these granules are we are introducing into an hot air oven and it is dried. If the drying time is increased, that means it may result in friability and capping. And if it is under dried, means it again causes another processing problem, that is picking and sticking. That means the tablet that we are punching will be get sticked into the die cavity, or sometimes the some of the surface of the tablet is taken away or picked away by the punch surfaces. So these are some of the processing problems that can happen if we are not careful about the drying time. Next is blending time. As we said that lower mixing affects the content uniformity, and if you are increasing the mixing, it may lead to powder segregation. So if you are increasing the mixing after adding these lubricants, it again affects the disintegration and dissolution times. Okay, so these are the some of the aspects that you should be considered while manufacturing tablets, and the detailed session of each step will be taken in the next class. Thank you.